All right, we're live.
All right. How's it going, you guys? So, we're finally reaching the end of the character creation. Hey, Grip, how's it going? And today we're talking about careers in Mythras. So, if you want, we'll just get right into it. Once again, this Mythras rules. Why do the rules make Mythras good for role playing? We're just going to cover a couple things. What is your character up to right now? Right, that's what this career is saying. Like, if you're talking about D&D, they have their backgrounds. That was what was your character up to up until the moment they started adventuring, and then their class is like, okay, what are we doing now? I would say that in Mythras, there is no mechanical thing. It's like, okay, what is your character doing now? That's what you're doing at the table. The careers are up to right before the game started. How did your character, what is their experience? What is on their resume? So we're going to talk about those careers. We're going to talk about some optional limits that game masters can put on those careers to enhance the role play and the verisimilitude of their games. Talk about custom careers, and then just some finishing up stuff so we can finish up character creation. That is age and the starting elements. I'll give it to you, Elf Hunter.
So, careers it's what your character embarked on as part of the transition to adulthood, by default at least. And like you pretty much explained it already, you could be still doing that, or you could be doing whatever now. But it's up to this point, what have you been doing? As well, it further defines your character's skills. So skill-based game, and you got some skills from your culture. Now you're getting some from your career. You have like a pool of points, and you can add some of those points to your standard skills, and then you choose 3 professional skills and add points to those as well. So your career will define what those skills are that you can choose and further define your skill development.
Exactly. And so I did want to make sure, because some people, they see the 7 skills, they think they can choose all of them, but you can only choose 3 of them. In the same way where two people from one career are still going to be very different because of how they spend on not only their standard skills, but the chosen professional skills. That's the exact same thing with a career. You can have 2 crafters who work on the same thing, but they choose different professional skills. So they're still different, right? Anyways,
Right.
Yeah, throw on that other slide. The optional limits. These are the how can we make the world come more to life. So first off is you can have, based on your cultural background, the game master can decide whether that is narrowing your list of skills or whether it broadens it, right? If you have a very simple society who it's like, hey, we ain't got much time to do anything except wake up, hunt, eat, go to sleep, then you're gonna have a very short list of careers. Most of them probably be different kinds of hunters and foragers. Whether, on the other hand, if you have a very maybe it doesn't even have to be an advanced society, but they have something that gives them more leeway, more time. They can diversify those careers, so you'll have more more careers to choose from, and by extension, skills. And then another thing is maybe you do live in an advanced society, but one example given in the book is maybe they kill any magical babies. It's like, oh, this baby is showing signs of magic, kill it. So then the magician's career would be absolutely prohibited in that culture. So that's one thing you can do. And then in similar ways, there's the social classes, and this is all given in the book. I love it because if you look in the rules section for creating your character in some game systems, it's almost like roleplay is worse than an afterthought. It's never even discussed. But in this chapter, in the sidebars, they're talking about the roleplay opportunities that you can have. It's like, okay, well, what careers can you not choose because you're in a social class? Like, hey, the example it gives in the book is if you can't be a merchant if you're from one of the higher up classes because they want to avoid corruption. But then the other way you can set it up is like maybe you can only be a merchant because if you are in one of those higher classes, so that like that already is showing you what kind of society you're living in, right? Only the rich can be merchants, and they have sort of like this oligarchy going on. Those are some just interesting things as you as a game master and as a player talking with your game master when you're creating the setting. Figure out, how can we make this to get the combined world even better?
Yeah, so you're defining your character and your world building at the same time.
At the same time.
And a lot of the advice in the book will say, like, ask your games master. We would take it a little bit further and say, just the whole table collaborates on this setting.
Sure.
Custom careers. What's in the book is very good.
There's 24 skills or careers in the book.
Yeah, it covers a lot. But if you want to make something custom, you can do that. Agree with your table, talk about that. Choose 7 standard skills and 7 professional skills for that career. And remember that your combat styles are considered standard skills, your magic skills are your professional skills.
Yeah, that's one of the few things I think that Mythras, it doesn't do too much like baking into the setting, right? But that's the one thing where it says, yes, magic is a professional skill, even if everybody in society uses that. And I would say it's probably a good thing because even if everyone in society uses, say, folk magic, which we'll get to after a while,
yeah,
a carpenter is going to use folk magic differently than, say, an explorer.
Absolutely. And I suppose you could change those things, but
yeah, if you want to make magic a standard skill, go for it.
It's a good base. I think the fact that you can make custom careers speaks to how the book expects you to play it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's less of a do this, do this, do this, and then play. It's more of a the rules should support whatever you guys want to do, what your table wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of customizability with that.
It's almost like the rules are supporting the role play.
Absolutely. So another thing is age. By default, Mythras assumes you start out as an adult, like a young adult.
I think I'm in the middle age category according to Mythras now.
I know, me too. I'm 30 years old. I'm middle-aged. Evidently. But yeah, so it affects a few things. It affects bonus skill points. So bonus skill points is more points that you get that you can add those points to whatever skills you already have. As well, you can add one more skill that reflects an additional hobby or interest. So it rounds out your character. And depending how old you are, you might just have a pool of 100 points or 200 points.
It goes up to 300 for the old guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So it reflects life. You learn a few things by the time you're old. As well, it affects the maximum amount of points that you can put in a single skill when you're adding those bonus skill points. I believe it also affects, as you get older, starts to negatively affect your strength, constitution, and dexterity.
Yes, for sure. We'll talk about that. There's so many, I guess, optional systems the game adds, but we'll go over that in another episode. Hey, Nicholas, how's it going? All right, so this is the end of the character creation. Don't worry, this is not the end of the game. But there are some starting elements just to finish things off. First is that starting equipment. I want to be very clear here. The starting equipment you get is just a base. The money that we talked about, that you're starting money from an earlier episode, you can use that to augment this starting equipment. So that starting equipment is your clothing, your weapons, your armor, and your transport, which depending on what social class you are, you're obviously getting a lot more or a lot less. If you're a slave, you're basically going to have nothing except for maybe a couple sets of clothes. Whereas if you're part of the ruling class, you're going to have mountains and mountains of things that you can augment even more with the vast amounts of wealth that you probably have. But After that, of course, is what about magic? Well, if you're in my game, then you don't have magic, but magic is a very fun part of Mythras, and it's a great decision point for your table and your game master to be like, well, do the characters start with magic? Is that something that they would have at their position? In other games such as D&D, if someone chooses to be a wizard, then they have magic. There's no say in it, right? But in Mythras, it's up to the table. How do they want to start? And we'll go into the magic chapters a little later, talking about, okay, you are starting with magic. How much magic do you have? But it's not a given. You can decide as a table whether people start with magic. The next thing is cults or brotherhoods. And when I say cult, that isn't like sort of the modern vernacular where it's like, oh, they're in a cult, they believe these crazy things. It's more like a cult where they follow a certain like philosopher or a certain study where they, that's just what they do. We're the cult of roleplay here, right?
Yeah.
And then brotherhoods, really the only difference between a cult and a brotherhood is if they have magic or not. There's a great chapter about this. This is one of the main rules that support roleplay in Mythras.
Absolutely. I love that they have a whole chapter on it.
So great.
I've heard some say it's the best chapter.
It's up there for sure. But of course, deciding whether your character starts in a cult or a brotherhood is another thing that you as a table can figure out. Maybe some characters do, some characters don't. The book does advise that if you do start in a cult, not to start very high. It says no more than a common member. How Mythras? Well, you can go read the rule book for How Mythras, War Grimes.
Yeah.
Where Mythras? It's on my bookshelf. But that is pretty much everything for character creation. And I will not deny that Mythras character creation is a lot more involved than other game systems. Thank you, Zonwar. I appreciate it. But by going through your character concept, not just as, oh, I am human fighter, even though that's the most base class. They go through your characteristics, your attributes, your skills, your culture, background, career, so many steps. But finally, at the very end, you have a extremely fleshed out character. And then in the little summary they give you, when it says finally, notice we didn't actually say it, but of course your character needs a name.
Yes.
Now that you've completed everything, please choose a name and look for a way to establish connections to your to the players at the table and their characters, right? Because all of this, you've connected your character to their culture, to society. You have family, you have friends, you have enemies, you have rivals. But what about your other players? They decided not to put any rules for that, which is probably a good idea. There's some other games that have rules for that.
Yeah, and I think it's because they're trying to support roleplay or support everyone getting involved together. But I like that it's open-ended. Talk with your table.
I guess if you really need rules for it, you can just go look at a Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Doesn't look like there's too many comments, so I guess we can just end the video there. Who Mythras? That's a good one. I don't know who Mythras. Who is John Mythras?
It is, I believe, Pete Nash and Lawrence Whitaker are the John Mithrases.
No, they two together. They form John. They have to be like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all. So I'll go ahead and end for the VOD. It'll end right here.